What happens when a late-night laugh fades just a little too fast, and a question meant to entertain suddenly feels like a challenge? The studio lights glow softly, bathing everything in that familiar late-night warmth, the kind that's designed to make conversations feel safe. The band finishes its upbeat cue. Applause rolls through the room, polished and automatic. Stephen Colbert smiles confidently from behind his desk, relaxed, in control, exactly where he's meant to be. Then Jennifer Lopez walks out. The audience erupts. Not polite clapping, real noise. Cheers, whistles, the kind of reaction reserved for someone who has spent decades shaping pop culture. Jennifer smiles as she waves, every step measured, every movement effortless. She looks powerful, composed, unshakable. This is supposed to be easy. A conversation. A few laughs. Another late-night appearance. But something in the air already feels different. She sits down, crossing her legs gracefully, hands resting calmly in her lap. Stephen leans forward slightly, cue cards stacked neatly on the desk. From the outside, everything looks normal. Perfect, even. Inside Jennifer's mind, a quiet alertness hums. Years of interviews have taught her one thing. The tone can change in a second. What happens when a woman who's conquered music, film, and fame sits across from a host known for pushing just a little too far? Before we go any further, if you love dramatic, cinematic stories that take you inside the moment, subscribe to the Narration Show right now, hit like, and comment below. Your support helps us bring you the most intense stories on YouTube. Stephen starts light. Compliments. Career praise. A few jokes. Jennifer laughs, relaxed but attentive. The audience follows along, comfortable. Safe. Then Stephen tilts his head. You've reinvented yourself so many times, he says. Do you ever feel like people still don't take you seriously? The smile on Jennifer's face pauses. Not gone, just suspended. A fraction of a second that most people wouldn't notice. But the cameras catch it. I think, she replies carefully, that people project a lot onto women who look a certain way. A murmur moves through the audience. Stephen nods, then adds, almost casually, some critics say your success is more about image than substance. Does that ever bother you? The laughter doesn't come this time. The room tightens. Jennifer inhales slowly. She's heard this before. Too many times. The implication dressed up as curiosity. Pretty, but not serious. Famous, but not deep. Her voice stays calm. Anyone who's actually followed my work knows how much effort goes into it. Stephen smiles, but pushes. But do you ever feel like you have to prove it more than others? Jennifer looks directly at him now. Her smile fades, not into anger, but into focus. I don't feel like I have to, she says. I do. The audience erupts. Applause breaks out instinctively. Stephen nods, but something shifts behind his eyes. The power dynamic tilts. He tries again. Do you think fame sometimes overshadows the art? Jennifer's gaze doesn't waver. Would you ask a male artist that question the same way? Silence. The kind of silence that feels loud. Stephen blinks. The band freezes. The audience holds its breath. I might, he says lightly. Might, Jennifer repeats. Or would. The tension is electric now. No jokes. No safety net. Stephen raises his hands slightly. Fair point. Jennifer leans forward. I've spent my entire career answering questions like that. And I'm okay with it. But sometimes the question says more than the answer. The applause is thunderous now. People are on their feet. Stephen smiles, but he's no longer steering the conversation. And everyone watching knows it. This isn't just an interview anymore. It's a moment. The applause fades, but the air stays tight. Stephen lets out a soft laugh, the kind meant to release tension, but it doesn't quite work. He straightens the stack of cards on his desk, buying himself a second. Jennifer settles back into her chair, her posture calm, controlled, but her eyes remain alert. This is no longer small talk. This is territory she knows well, and one she's tired of walking through politely. Stephen nods, trying to regain rhythm. You've always been open about confidence, he says. But confidence can make people uncomfortable. Jennifer tilts her head slightly. That's usually not the confident person's problem. The audience reacts instantly. Sharp laughter, followed by applause. Stephen smiles, but it's thinner now. He glances toward the crowd, then back to her, aware that the room has chosen a side, even if temporarily. I'm curious, he continues, choosing his words carefully. After all these years in the spotlight, does criticism still get under your skin? Jennifer doesn't answer right away. She looks out at the audience, then back at Stephen. The pause stretches. It feels deliberate. No, she says finally. But assumptions do. Stephen raises an eyebrow. Assumptions about what? About why I'm here, she replies. About how hard I work. About what I deserve. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Some nod. Some shift in their seats. This isn't a rehearsed answer. It's personal. Stephen leans forward. Do you think the media treats you unfairly? Jennifer lets out a small, almost amused breath. I think the media reflects society. And society has a complicated relationship with powerful women. The band stirs slightly, sensing the gravity of the moment. Stephen glances back at his desk, then looks up again. He's walking a line now. Push too hard, and the moment turns confrontational. Pull back too much, and it looks like retreat. So when people say you're intimidating, he says, how does that land? Jennifer's lips press together briefly. I find it interesting, she says, that confidence in men is leadership and confidence in women is intimidation. The audience breaks into loud applause, some cheering outright. Stephen nods slowly, absorbing the reaction. For the first time, he doesn't immediately respond. Jennifer continues, her voice steady. I don't wake up trying to intimidate anyone. I wake up trying to be excellent. The words hang in the air. Excellence. Not ambition. Not ego. Excellence. Stephen clears his throat. You've talked before about vulnerability, he says. About self-doubt earlier in your career. Do moments like this ever bring that back? For a moment, something softer passes across Jennifer's face. The armor doesn't drop, but it flexes. Self-doubt never really disappears, she admits. But it changes. It stops controlling you. The audience quiets, leaning in. This is the Jennifer Lopez people don't always see. The one who reflects, who remembers the early days, the rejections, the rooms where she wasn't taken seriously at all. I remember being told I was too much, she continues. Too loud. Too ambitious. Too visible. Stephen listens closely now, no interruptions. And for a while, she says, I believed them. A hush falls over the studio. Even the cameras seem to slow. But then I realized, she adds, the problem wasn't me. The applause returns, louder, more emotional this time. Stephen nods, clearly affected, but still searching for balance. So how do you handle it now, he asks. The noise? Jennifer smiles faintly. I choose what deserves my energy. Stephen laughs softly. That sounds like a skill. It's survival, she replies. The crowd reacts again. This isn't banter anymore. It's testimony. Stephen glances toward the wings of the stage, then back at Jennifer. Some people watching might say this feels tense. Jennifer looks directly at him. Honest can feel tense. Another wave of applause. Stephen exhales, half smiling. Fair enough. He shifts in his chair. Do you think moments like this matter? Jennifer doesn't hesitate. Yes, because someone at home is watching and realizing they're not wrong for feeling dismissed. The audience claps again, some people standing. Stephen stands briefly too, clapping along, but there's a subtle acknowledgement in his posture. This is her moment now. The conversation moves toward its close, but the weight of what's been said lingers. The jokes return lighter, safer, but they don't erase what came before. Jennifer stands to leave, smiling politely, waving to the crowd. Stephen thanks her warmly. As she walks off stage, the applause follows her longer than usual. And everyone watching knows, something real just happened. The applause stretches longer than expected, rolling after her as she disappears behind the curtain. Even after Jennifer Lopez is out of sight, the energy she leaves behind refuses to settle. Stephen remains standing for a beat, clapping along with the audience, his smile fixed, professional. But when he finally sits back down, there's a subtle shift in his posture. He exhales. Not dramatically, just enough for the cameras to catch it. Late-night television moves fast. There's no time to sit with discomfort. The show rolls on. Jokes land. The band plays. The audience laughs again. On the surface, everything snaps back into place. But underneath, something is still humming. An unresolved tension that lingers like an echo after a loud noise. Backstage, Jennifer walks down the hallway, heels clicking against the polished floor. Her team converges around her almost immediately. Someone offers water. Someone else asks quietly, "Are you okay?" She nods once. She's okay. More than okay. But inside, adrenaline still courses through her body, sharp and electric. These moments always look calm on the outside. Inside, there's storms. She pauses near her dressing room mirror, catching her reflection. The face staring back at her is composed, strong, but her eyes carry something deeper. Years of experience. Years of restraint. Years of learning when to speak and when to let silence do the work. She thinks about the pause. That 1 second of silence after her question. Would you ask a male artist the same way? She knows exactly how powerful that moment was. Silence is dangerous on live television. Silence exposes things words try to hide. In the control room, producers replay clips already. They rewind, watch the exchange again, eyes narrowing, fingers tapping screens. One producer shakes his head slowly. That's going to travel, he mutters. Another doesn't look worried at all. That's television, she says. Real television. Across the country, phones light up almost immediately. Someone records the moment off their TV and posts it online. The clip spreads in minutes. Then seconds. Then it explodes. Jennifer Lopez shuts it down. Stephen Colbert caught off guard. That got uncomfortable fast. Captions fly. Emojis pile up. People argue before the clip even finishes loading. In living rooms, viewers rewind. They watch her expression. They analyze his tone. They debate intent. Some lean forward, nodding along with Jennifer's words. Others cross their arms, uncomfortable with the confrontation. Everyone feels something. And in the attention economy, feeling something is everything. Stephen finishes the show and steps off stage. Applause fades behind him as the lights dim. He hands off his cards, loosens his tie slightly. Someone cracks a joke. He laughs, but it doesn't fully land. He knows that moment will follow him. Not because it was wrong, but because it was real. In his dressing room, he watches the clip once. Just once. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't rewind. He lets it play through and then turns the screen off. He's been doing this long enough to know when something has weight. He knows people will dissect his words, his expressions, his pauses. And he also knows something else. The moment wasn't about him. By the next morning, the internet is fully awake. Headlines pop up everywhere. Blogs, news sites, opinion columns, reaction videos titled in all caps. Panels on morning shows debate tone and responsibility. Some commentators praise Jennifer's composure, calling it powerful, necessary. Others accuse her of being overly sensitive, of reading too much into a question. The divide is sharp. Why is confidence threatening? She handled that with grace. It was just a question. He crossed a line. The same clip is shared thousands of times, but everyone sees something different in it. Jennifer wakes up early, as she always does. She scrolls briefly, then puts her phone down. She's learned not to live inside the noise. Still, she's aware of it. She feels it vibrating around her career, her name, her legacy. She doesn't issue a statement. She doesn't clarify. She doesn't explain. Silence, again, does the work. Her fans defend her fiercely. They share stories of being underestimated, dismissed, labeled too much. Women write long threads about workplaces, classrooms, meetings where confidence was treated like arrogance. Men chime in too, some supportive, some defensive, some reflective. The moment becomes bigger than the interview. It becomes a mirror. Stephen's team discusses whether to address it on the next show. Opinions differ. Some think it needs a response. Others think responding would only fuel the fire. Stephen listens quietly. He understands both sides. That night, when the show returns, the audience is louder than usual. They know. Everyone knows. Stephen steps out to his desk, applause washing over him. He smiles, waits, lets it settle. For a split second, it feels like he might say something. The room leans forward. Instead, he opens with a joke. Light. Safe. The crowd laughs, relieved. But the moment lingers in the subtext. Unspoken but present. Later, during a quiet moment off camera, someone asks him how he feels about it. He shrugs slightly. Sometimes, he says, the most uncomfortable moments are the most honest. That quote circulates too. Meanwhile, Jennifer attends an event days later. Flashbulbs pop. Reporters shout questions over each other. One voice cuts through. Jennifer. The Colbert interview. Any thoughts? She pauses. Just long enough to command attention. I said what I needed to say, she replies calmly. And I stand by it. Then she turns and walks away. That clip goes viral too. The audience reaction evolves over time. Initial shock gives way to deeper discussion. Media analysts slow the footage down, examining body language, tone shifts, conversational power. Some argue Stephen was doing his job. Others argue Jennifer was tired of doing emotional labor for free. The truth lives somewhere in the tension. What's undeniable is this: the interview refuses to fade. Weeks later, people still reference it. It's brought up in discussions about women in entertainment, about interview ethics, about how questions are framed and who bears the burden of answering them. Jennifer returns to work. Music, film, rehearsals. The rhythm of her life continues. But the moment becomes part of her story, not as controversy, but as clarity. Stephen moves on too. Show after show, guest after guest. But occasionally, in quieter interviews, he mentions the importance of listening, of being aware, of understanding that words carry different weight depending on who they're aimed at. And somewhere between the applause and the silence, between the question and the answer, a late-night interview transformed into something lasting. Not a scandal, a conversation. One that started with discomfort and refused to disappear. The conversation doesn't fade the way most late-night moments do. It settles in. It lingers. It follows people into their routines, into their timelines, into discussions that stretch far beyond a single studio. Days pass, but the clip keeps resurfacing, reshared with new captions, new angles, new emotions layered on top of it. What began as an uncomfortable exchange has become a cultural reference point. Not because voices were raised, not because anyone walked off, but because something honest broke through the performance of television. Jennifer Lopez continues her schedule, but everywhere she goes, the moment follows. At red carpets, reporters hesitate before asking. They choose their words carefully now. Some ask about her projects. Others ask about confidence, about speaking up. When the question comes again, about that interview, she answers the same way every time. I meant what I said. No apology. No clarification. No defensiveness. Just ownership. Fans read strength into that. Critics read stubbornness. But no one reads uncertainty. On social media, the conversation deepens. Long threads appear analyzing why the question landed the way it did. Women share screenshots of emails, performance reviews, messages where their confidence was labeled aggressive or difficult. Men respond too, some thoughtfully, some defensively, some realizing for the first time how familiar the pattern is. The clip stops being about Jennifer Lopez and Stephen Colbert. It becomes about language, about tone, about who gets the benefit of the doubt. Media outlets run follow-ups. Psychologists weigh in on power dynamics in interviews. Cultural commentators argue whether discomfort is something to be avoided or embraced. One headline calls it a masterclass in composure. Another calls it an overreaction. The split is sharp, and it stays sharp. Stephen Colbert addresses it indirectly a week later, not with a monologue, but with a quiet reflection during an interview with another guest. He speaks about conversation, about curiosity, about how questions don't land the same way on everyone. He doesn't name Jennifer. He doesn't defend himself. He doesn't apologize either. He simply acknowledges the weight of words. That, too, becomes a quote that travels. Behind the scenes, producers across networks take notes. Booking meetings include new conversations now. Not about avoiding tough questions, but about asking better ones. About listening to answers instead of steering past them. About understanding that tension doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes it means truth. Jennifer's team notices a shift as well. The kinds of questions she's asked begin to change. Less about proving legitimacy. More about perspective. About experience. About leadership. It's subtle, but it's there. And Jennifer notices too. In a quiet moment, alone, she reflects on why that exchange mattered so much. Not because she won. Not because someone else lost. But because she didn't shrink. She didn't smooth it over for comfort. She didn't laugh it away. She stayed present. She thinks about the younger version of herself. The one who accepted dismissive questions because she thought that was the price of being allowed into the room. The one who smiled through discomfort because pushing back felt risky. That version of her would be proud. The audience reaction continues to evolve. What started as shock turns into recognition. People rewatch the clip weeks later and notice new things. The timing of the pause, the steadiness of her voice, the way the audience instinctively reacted before they even had time to think. It wasn't rehearsed. That's why it worked. Late-night TV thrives on moments that feel alive. This one was alive in a different way. Not flashy. Not explosive. Just undeniably real. Eventually, the internet moves on, as it always does. New controversies appear. New clips trend. But this moment doesn't disappear completely. It becomes one of those references people pull out when a similar situation happens again. Remember when Jennifer Lopez said, and they quote her, "The legacy of the moment isn't cancellation. It isn't victory. It's awareness. It's a reminder that questions aren't neutral. That confidence doesn't need permission. That discomfort, when handled with honesty, can open doors instead of closing them." In the end, no one storms off stage. No apology tour follows. No dramatic fallout destroys careers. Instead, something quieter happens. People think. And thinking is far more powerful than outrage. Now it's your turn. When you watched that moment, what did you see? A host doing his job, or a line being crossed? A celebrity being defensive, or a woman refusing to be reduced? Drop your opinion in the comments. This conversation doesn't end without you. And if you want more intense, cinematic stories that pull you inside the moments everyone else just scrolls past, subscribe to the Narration Show right now. Because the most powerful clashes don't always come with shouting. They come with silence, courage, and the choice to stand your ground.